Hello and good evening. You're watching the Policy Times, world's first policy and development media. Policy Times, since our inception in the last 4 years, we have been trying to organize talk shows or policy talk series or different kind of summits with just one single objective that one, we need to promote development journalism. On the other hand, every program that we need to do or we do, it has to bring some kind of positive change in the society. Now, education, we realized that if any nation wants to be a progressive or prosperous nation, the first sector that has to grow along with it is the education. In fact, it is vice versa. If the education system is world class, that can only ensure the country to be world class. That is why we have started series of organizing a lot of programs. Our World Education Summit that we organized in January 2021 attracted around 3,000 educators across India and led by many other academicians who shared a lot of important and interesting aspects as to what are the changes we are observing post-pandemic. Pandemic, I think, has hit education like any other sector massively. Among education, while delivering education, there are many other areas where this pandemic has hit really hard. One such area is admissions. I believe, and we all agree, I think admission is one of the most important factors in education system. So if we have good quality education admissions, we have better batches which provide better kind of educations to this. Now, India has 1,000 plus universities, uh, around 50,000 plus colleges, and a lot of other higher education institutions, including skill, providing or skill institutions. Now, if you see the dynamism, we see a lot of colleges, especially the private ones, go empty in terms of the number of seats. A lot of seats go empty. Now, what are the post-pandemic admission challenges? How do we fight out for, and what kind of strategies should we adopt post-pandemic is something that is very interesting to observe, especially for the management and admission heads. Today, I'm really thrilled and honored to welcome two eminent personalities coming from and educators coming from this education sector. I want to welcome Anand, Tarun Anandji, who is the founder and chairman of Universal Business School. And with him, I have the honor to welcome Akash Sharma, who is the director, admission and outreach at one of India's leading, especially North India's leading education institution, Noida International University, to talk on this very important topic. So, I'll first go to our speakers. We'll first request them to kindly introduce yourself, your professional journey, the kind of change you have seen in the education sector, and a little bit about your education institution before we jump into the topic. So I'll first go to Tarun Anand, sir.
Thank you, Akram, for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you, Policy Times. Amazing work you're doing, taking the big issues of the country to the policymakers. So it's a pleasure to be here. Very quickly about myself, I actually did my education largely in Mumbai. I studied at SP Jain Institute of Management Research, did my MBA there. And then I, in my travels, had the opportunity to study in Michigan Business School in the United States, Tuck Business School in the United States, and IE Business School in Spain. So I got a chance to see education on all three continents. I think that besides that, my parents also come from the education background. Both my parents were educators for 30, 35 years each. So I think maybe that's where the bug started. But honestly, I have not been an educator. I was got into the corporate world. I was a banker with HSBC and Standard Chartered Bank for several years. Then I moved on to Reuters, where I was heading treasury for South Asia. And then I moved to London to manage treasury business of global emerging markets. So got to work in more than 55 countries around the world. So gained a lot of exposure in the world of treasury and business, how business is done, whether you're negotiating with the Chinese, the Russians at one end, to the Brazilians and the South Africans, to the Aussies. So it was a great learning experience. Then the big jump came from London. I was promoted as global CEO for the treasury business. So I moved to New York. So it was great to work in Wall Street with the big banks were my customers. I was running a $2 billion business spread over 136 countries around the world. And that got us to create an idea for my business. And we went to one of the largest exchanges in the world, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I and a couple of colleagues, we raised $90 million in funding and created the world's first FX exchange. We created that in both Europe and US. And then I moved to Asia to be CEO of Asia Pacific. So again, it was greenfield, set up businesses in Japan, in Taiwan, in Singapore, in Australia, Southeast Asia, and so on. And then I moved to India as chairman and managing director of Thomson Reuters. So that was my professional journey. But I was very clear in New York itself that I want to set up a world-class business school in India. And so I, along with 60 other CEOs, these CEOs come from JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, GE, Novartis. We got together to set the school up. And we said we will partner with international universities in UK, Europe, and the United States and South America as well, and create programs which we use the best of the both worlds. One is the world of the international best practices, international curriculums, international way of learning and teaching. And to that, we would add our professional, we have all been CEOs, we've all run large companies around the world. So can we get that, experiential learning, which is then delivered by CEOs in the classroom, so that we felt that the ones who should deliver are the ones who've seen the world. I always put this analogy: if you want to learn cricket, do you go to Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli, who've played, or do you go to Harsha Bhogle? Now, he's a great speaker, but he's never played international cricket. So we feel that one should get an opportunity to learn. So it's been, over a decade in education. So now I can say I still have been 20 years in the corporate world, a banker, 10 years in education. So I still, unless I do another 10 years, I can't say I'm a expert educationalist, but I'm enjoying this opportunity to impact young minds. Thank you.
What an honor to know your career, sir, and your professional journey. Wonderful, like your success in United States, and then gaining experience in different part of the world. Then after all of this, coming back to India and setting up a world-class business school, I'd be extremely excited to also see how the institution is shaping up and how it is offering education uniquely. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I come to Akash Sharma. Akash, a brief introduction.
Yeah, hi Akram. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Policy Times. Largely, I'm in from the sales and marketing side only. I'm having a career span of almost 29 years, and I started my career way back in the early 1990. And I've started with FMCGs, then I've started with some other products. Scrap Trees, my baby, actually we launched that in 1995. And since then, after that, I've worked with Venus Records and Tapes. I've worked with CPWD. I worked with Northern Railways. In CPWD, there were some of the prestigious projects like Delhi Secretariat and State Drug Authority, Rohini Court. I mean, these kinds of the projects I've handled. And after that, I handled Swan Shatabdi Power Car projects with Northern Railways. And after that, I moved into the education and had a short stint with Orange Softwares in New Jersey when they actually started the IBM certifications for the engineering students. From then and there, this journey started, and then I started my first engineering college as a head of marketing with the Kodaikanal Institute of Technology way back in 2002. And from there, after that, Cosmic Business School, IBMR, then I worked for Educomp as head of marketing in Educomp Raffles Higher Education Limited for almost 9 years. I started almost 19 colleges, counseled 15,000 plus students as on date. And apart from that, I worked with students for, for their peak performances, critical thinking. And the most important thing is leadership. And we are encouraging students to start their own ventures, helping them for the seed funding, angel investments. I mean, how to make all those projects, how to project their ideas. So we are helping students with that. And I was in sabbatical for last 2 years. I was not into the education, but somehow some of my colleagues and the chairman of the Noida International University, Mr. Deveshi, actually convinced me to come back to the education marketing again. So I joined Noida International University in very recent time. It's almost a month now, and I have a plan in mind, and I'm just implementing that. So largely the idea is to have students, good quality students, some placeable students, as Mr. Tarun, rightly said. I mean, it is all about the domain expertise. It is all about the experiential learning. So at the end of the day, I mean, any students who's seeking placements or maybe looking for, one of the best careers, I mean, should know what his domain expertise is all about. And not only that, we are helping students to analyze their own strengths and weaknesses through psychometric analysis. Some of the students who are very good in arts, or they are very artistic in nature, but they sometimes choose technical programs like engineering, and they fail miserably into that. So not only that, I mean, we are helping students in many ways. And since my journey with Educomp, we were working on many workshops like this, and we are trying to implement similar kind of a thing now. So out of the 29 years, 19 years into the education and 10 years into the corporate. This is what I'm all about.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akash ji. So we have two educators, two experts coming from complete two different diverse profile. And thank you so much, Akash ji, for this is in fact your second innings in terms of your contribution to the education, which will be very interesting. I think with such vast experience in this changing climate post-pandemic, I think Noida International University is going to observe a lot of new or gain a lot of new things from you and your expertise. I will come to the point now on this subject. So policy times in last 4 years, our experiences, there are 4 areas where education need is there or some changes is needed. Number one, industry exposure. We all would agree on the point that we need absolute industry exposure. Tarun sir, coming from industry, knows very well how we need to prepare our students for the industry, and they need industry exposure experience during their education. The second trend, basically I'm talking in true modern sense post-pandemic, is digitization and globalization. Today, most of the world universities, whether they are from America, whether they are from Europe, they are providing, best class universities are providing online courses for Indian students or South Asian students or African students, which means that the competition level has also changed. So education has gone globalized and education also has gone digitized. So in that format, the third, I think, trend that we are observing is that the competition has also changed. In a sense, today, Google University can be the largest university of the world, or Yahoo can start its own university, Facebook can start its own university. So, and today also I see, since it is digital, some of the good professionals coming from the corporate has started their own education, coaching, like it's not exactly coaching institutes, but certification programs they are giving, whether it is on cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, which is giving equal tough competition to the entire setup. Now, coming to the also core point of admission. Admission has also been witnessing the quite tectonic shift. I have seen in last year when COVID came, most of the admission heads were absolutely confused as to what kind of strategy should they adopt now to attract students. First point was to reaching out to them. The second point was to convince them digitally or online. So we saw a rise of a lot of online career counseling programs and all. This year, the same trend also got disrupted because it got quite difficult to convince students to come online and then convincing them to come and take an admission. The third is, so far, we saw national education policy, but anywhere I did not see any kind of government intervention in terms of meeting the admission seats or vacancies which are available in government as well as private institutions. Should there be any policy intervention in the admission process? Then what should be the role of governments in the entire ecosystem? So these are what are the changing dynamics in education and admission, what are the challenges and opportunities, and in this new kind of competitive era, what should be the role and strategies for the education institution. These are a couple of actually points that I just threw before I invite our speakers. So I'll first request Tarun sir to kindly deliver your keynote.
Thank you. So you've hit on all the what we say, dapti nas pe haath lagana. So these are all very, very important points. I'll start by because I'm not a university, we are into business education and management education. So I'll take a step back. And then I'll address the issue with respect to admissions. But I want to take it slightly broader. Given the pandemic, we have to ask ourselves two questions, right? Can an organization in today's world function without mastery of technology or understanding how technology can bring about a business transformation? And secondly, what are the jobs of the future? What are we training people for? So, it's clear that the jobs of the future, many of the jobs will be taken up by machines, right? Newer jobs will be created where people will work alongside machines, right? So computers will replace some humans, but that's not the big story. The big story is how humans and computers, can do things that have never been done before, right? And therefore we call it the new superheroes, which will be the new super minds, and that's the future of education. If we just take one industry in the larger thing, like business analytics, it's going to become a $200 billion, and it's just a fledgling industry yet. People are still, in India, probably it's just not even, everybody's talking about it, but have people gone all out? No. So, I don't think digital can be separate digital, right? People say, okay, ye digital hai, ye non-separate hai. It's got to be integrated digital. And this pandemic has told us that unless we think about learning as an integrated part of digital learning, you're not going to be successful, right? So the challenges, of course, from a learning perspective, is having a robust learning management system and in a handheld manner, right? Students want to be able to access all the information on their mobile phones. Many times they don't even have place. It's been a trying time for our students, right? I have a friend who's a CEO, right, of a large company. And I used to, he used to say, I never put my screen on, right? So I'm like, yeah, you're the CEO, you should put your screen on. He said, I have a 3-bedroom house. I have 2 children. So each of the 2 children and they're all talking in the morning, the classes are going. I have my 3rd bedroom, which is my wife takes. We moved my grandmother into the living room, so that's on. So I sit in the bathroom and give all my my entire days spent in the bathroom. So I can't put on the screen. I'm the CEO. So I'm saying, if that is happening to a CEO, imagine the average Indian, right? Where mothers are walking around, children are crying. It's very trying. So that learning experience is obviously going to be crazy. So I empathize with the teachers, I empathize with the students, I empathize with the parents. So where the learning part has changed is, we've figured out that from a learning perspective, some elements can go online, right? So self-learning, people who are motivated, certain theories can be very well done in bite-sized learning models. Classroom learning has to change with a lot of inclusion of experiential learning. So there are lots of now online simulation, online games. We use a lot of them, which has made the learning more attractive online. I'm not saying online is the way forward. I definitely don't. But given we have no other option, we had to embrace it. And then the element is of community learning, so that we enable the student to go out of the classroom, out of the boundaries of the education institutions, outside the boundaries of even the country, and go to derive deep knowledge in a particular area which they're excited about, right? So we call that community learning. And so we enable that with our partnerships with BusyNet and Global Business School Network, where our students are going and doing projects in virtually in Amsterdam and in San Francisco, right? So, and then the whole aspect of learning is saying every learner is different, right? And then that brings out the whole aspect of adaptive learning, that two people can start the course at the same time, but don't necessarily have to finish at the same time. Whereas our education system is you start at one, then the semester, then the exam, and some are obviously ahead of the game, some are small. So adaptive learning online allows you to this. So these are some of the innovations, but it's been tough, right? 50% of the learning happens outside the classroom. And when you don't have a classroom, the entire peer-to-peer learning, the entire well-being, the back-slapping fun of learning, college environments have had to take a big beating, and mentally also students have had to face this. So student engagement levels will be dipping, have dipped, grades are going to dip. I have no doubt about it, right? Because it's very difficult for us faculty as a faculty to do magic on the other side of a black hole, right? So that's the challenge. So how do you redo that? You've got to digitally re-engineer everything, right? So you've got to start by saying, what is the student learning journey? What are the new technologies can I give the student, from artificial intelligence enabled smart learning to augmented reality, virtual reality? Do I need to redesign all my processes and delivery of assessments? Do I, and to get into this technology world, and this is where I say, whether it's admissions or academic delivery, strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. So building an online culture within your marketing unit and in your academic unit is very, very important. So, coming to digital online admissions, there is that movie which used to say with Vidya Balan, entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. In the post-COVID world, it's digital, digital, digital. And I'll give you my personal experience, right? I used to visit 70 cities in a year on a really, this was 3-4 years ago. And I would meet 4,000, 5,000 students hit ke. Without leaving my office and my campus in Karjat, I have reached out to 50,000 views on just one platform, YouTube. I'm not talking of Facebook. I'm not talking of Instagram. I'm not talking of LinkedIn. So you can see the multiplier effect that you get through digital. Honestly, if you ask me, I love that. I don't even want to visit. I said, अगर 50,000 लोग को मिल सकता हूँ, whereas physically going 1 घंटा meeting in one city, you've lost 48 hours reaching there. Sometimes in Assam, you don't even get a flight back on the same day. So digital has come to help us big time, right? We had already taken a lot, even pre-pandemic, all our academic processes of selection was online. So we were very, very well prepared. We had scaled up, but of course, digital marketing is I'm sure Akash and my best friends in this kind of environment. So and I'm not going to. This is not a class on digital marketing, but I'm sure. But in digital marketing, I think influencer marketing is very, very valuable. So one should really take care of that, because that will amplify the education institutions' reach in the world out there. I always say, so that's the platform, but content is king and design is queen, right? So whether it's your website, whether you're doing video logs, all social media platforms, your content has to be nice, visual appeal has to be there, and hard hitting. And then you can add that with master classes, regular webinars, so that you keep engaging your student population. Of course, a platform, each education institution needs to have a very strong platform which can allow for continuous engagement, lead nurturing. That's very, very important. Connectivity. So once you have the platform, you need to have connectivity. So whether it's through a toll-free, whether it's through chat bots, which are enabled by artificial intelligence, whether it's WhatsApp enabled into your website, all of these things, there are many, many such tools. You've got to make sure that you're easily available, reachable. Then, of course, we need a lead management system, so a CRM system, so that we understand the behavior of the leads. And then you need professional counseling training, right? So the training is very must, because you've got to, online etiquette is very, very different, right, than physically meeting. So can you make sure that your teams are of that level? Of course, the next step is the admission process. It should be very professional, seamless. You can experiment on new innovative interviewing techniques on video. There are many which are coming up. And post the admission process, I think the important we've seen is how the alumni and our international partners in Europe and US, they play a big role in supporting the student on these big decisions. So make it fun, use contests, and make it easy for them to pay. So if you can put all of this together, I think you have a compelling reach, a compelling story, and students will run to you.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tarun sir, for really exciting and the kind of the way you have taken the entire thing from overall education experience to the admission part is very nice. I will come to Akash sir now from here because Akash sir's experience goes from here in terms of managing admission, building the institutions. So you are also witnessing massive change, though the second inning started in August, but you are also observing the kind of challenges that are in front of you. So your observation.
Well, I start from three of the quotes, which are very famous quotes. I, being the student of Dr. Philip Kotler, is a very famous quote of Dr. Philip Kotler is the end of marketing and the end of strategy. Somewhere, this is going to get, finished. I mean, any kind of a growth becomes stagnant at, some point of time. The second quote is from a very, famous verse from Bhagavad Gita from the third chapter, Karma Yoga. Updekshanti the jnanam jnanina tattva darshina. So what does this mean is कि ज्ञान उद्देश्यों से नहीं मिलता है, वो तत्व ज्ञान का दर्शन करने से मिलता है, which is what the experiential learning is all about. And the third one is in sales and marketing, from I believe is from last 100 years. जो दिखेगा वही बिकेगा. Now, if I start with the first one, the end of marketing and the end of strategy, if I talk about digital marketing, although I was in sabbatical from the education, but yes, I was doing something else, and that was a project which requires a formidable digital marketing. So what I can see, I mean, since I'll start this with pre-pandemic era. I mean, the lead which we were generating at say the social media platforms at that point of time, say till 2019, was say around, for an instance, 40 rupees a lead, 50 rupees a lead. The moment this pandemic era started, since 2020, I mean, that same lead is costing us around 200 plus. There's a huge difference in the price factor. Why I'm saying this is because nowadays each and every institution, or maybe each and every business, is there online, is there on the digital platforms. They are running campaigns, they are running social media campaigns, they are running Google campaigns, and not only on the social media, even in the Google search. If we talk about, I mean, the situation is almost same. So now the quality of lead has decreased, the price of the lead has increased, and so as the quantity has decreased. Now, how to manage this? Now here comes the experiential learning. If I talk about the digital thing, I mean, it is very good platform to reach out to the students or to your, prospective customer. But at the end of the day, nowadays, each and every college is having a webinar every hour. So if I'm a student and I have appeared for a CAT or MAT examination, it is just like committing a crime. I tend to receive, 1,000 SMSs a day, around 100 calls per hour, and maybe, say around 1,000 links from, almost all business schools throughout the country. So I, as a student, just think about my mindset. How do I select my business school? And then the third and the important thing is, jo dikhega wo bekega, is now comes the reference selling. As Tarunji rightly said, the alumni is now, they are in the game now. They are endorsing their colleges. So, how successful we are. We are from, XYZ business school. So you also join that. This, these kinds of things normally we are seeing. So from a student's perspective, it is very difficult. When every college, everyone is on a same platform, It is very, very difficult. I can give you my example. Now, my son has passed his 12th standard this year only. And I, as a parent, I am also confused which way to go, which college to select. So at the end of the day, the last one, jo dikhega wo bikega, is again, it puts a big question mark, because har koi dikh raha hai, par big koi nahi raha hai. And then students have their own strategy. The parents have their own strategy. Nowadays, you will find, there are lot many registrations in the colleges or the universities, but you will not find the final admissions. There are, formidable number of drops at the end of the session. The reason behind this is they are taking you as an option. You're not their first choice. So they might be thinking of some other business school. For an instance, I mean, if I'm residing in Noida, my first preference will be the NCR region. Second preference, maybe some, elite business school. I remember when we were in, when I was in EduComp, we made some investments in Great Lakes, Chennai. And we started there, one of the college in Gurgaon. And, it is all about the policy. It is all about the intake. It takes 2, 3 years or 4 years to build an institution. Similar is the case with GRE group of institution, which we started in Greater Noida. We were not competing with any Tom, Dick and Harry kind of an institution. We were competing with one of the top business schools in that region, which is owned by Birla. So at the end of the day, when we were sitting, the entire team was sitting. So we were thinking, what we have different to offer to the students. Every business school is claiming they are the best in the business. Everybody has 100% placement. Everybody has lucrative offers. Everybody is giving scholarship. So what different we can do? So there, we got the idea at that point of time to involve industry leaders as mentors of the students. We divided our students into the group of 10, 15, and we, allotted that group to, one of the mentor. For example, someone is a CEO of a company. He was mentoring those 15 students. So, this thing, when we talk about the industry integration, it is not about the MOUs which institute signs. It is all about the active participation of the people who are there in the industry. So that makes the difference. First year we had 660 admissions, and the very next year we got our all seats filled in the month of March only. And that too, all of the students were 60 percentile plus in the CAT. So it is a very old saying, if you offer peanuts, only monkeys will come. So at the end of the day, it is not about the platform which you are choosing. It is all about the delivery. Education is all about delivery. The moment you position yourself, for example, Calcutta is known for finance. Ahmedabad is known for general management. What is your positioning? So that positioning is most important. That creates a niche. So for me, I mean, all my experience in the admission marketing, most of the colleges which I have taken up were, or most of them were the turnkey projects, and we have built up those colleges over the years. It is not a 1 day, 2 day, or maybe 1, 2 years game. That takes a time. So when it comes to pandemic era, your options are limited. Students are again they are confused. They are nowadays they are not only confused which college to choose. They are confused whether to go for a college or not, because at the end of the day, even the parents, they are the one who are going to write the checks. They are the one who is going to pay your fees. So from last 2 years, most of the parents, they have lost their jobs, their business has got dented, they have got financial losses. So how to attract those parents, how to attract those students, what an institution can offer them. Now, this is the one side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is, now the institutes have their own problems, the operational issues, cost cutting. There might be salary issues for the teachers, for the operation staff. I mean, there are a lot many issues which the institute is also facing. So here, what is the best thing which we can do nowadays is, I'm just going to implement in my institute is, we are inviting students, we are inviting parents, and we are making them the stakeholders. So we tried this in our engineering school, where some of the parents are engineers. We are inviting them as well to take classes, to share their experiences. There are parents in the business school who are serving at senior level, and they have a formidable experience of the business and life. So they are sharing their experiences. So we are creating a kind of a network. It is a kind of a student, parent, and institute partnership kind of a thing. So the marketing has to be innovative. You have to create freshness every year. Whatever plan I have executed last year might not work this year. And not only that, India is a very funny country. I mean, every 100 kilometers, you have a different language, different culture, different financial status. So any plan which we are executing in Delhi NCR might not work in Bangalore. So it has to be a city-specific plan. And are you giving your message right to the customer? The most important thing is that it is all about perception of reality. So whatever we perceive, we have to check the reality as well. This is my point.
Thank you. I think excellent points. A lot of interesting strategies that you have shared. I think very rightly you mentioned about Philip Kotler, and that is how I think a lot of new ideas came in your thinking. Because when I did my MBA, he is still the guru. Now I'll come to the final. I'll take the final message from both of you. In addition to the final message or closing remarks that you want to give for parents, what would be a message for parents? What would be a message for students? What would be a message for policymakers? What would be a message for education, management, as well as normal academicians or educators? In addition, I just also want to say 2-3 questions. I would love to have your answer. Number one, I am looking at the entire thing from nation building perspective. My worry and concern is that we have 70 to 80% dropouts in the higher education. From school to higher education, almost 80 out of 100 students do not take admission. What I understand from the statistics, that's a huge number, and that also shows that how a huge amount of resources are going unskilled and hence waste. And if they are not educated, that means they will become either some low grade quality jobs or daily laborers, or they will go some other activities which are not desirable or unsocial activities. And exactly that is also happening across many other states. My concern is, if 60 or 70% students do not go for higher education, it is a huge national loss. Are we taking it seriously? How do we address this concern? My worry is we have to educate 100% of our kids coming out of schools. The second point, which I saw very, very confusing, is that the expenses of the education institutions, though Indian education institutions are far, far cheaper compared to the global institutions, whether we compare the European ones or Europeans may be a little cheaper, but the Americans are goddamn expensive. Ours are relatively high, the private institutions, but from the parents or students' perspective, it is quite relatively high, which means the parents' per capita spending in education mentally and also in real term is also very low. Does that mean our per capita income is low, or our mindset to spend in education is also low? How do we work on these two factors so that, because if we want to provide quality education, the expenses has to go up and should be high, especially with the private institutions. So it has to be balanced. So the third point is what should the policymakers do on the admission front? Because if it is a private education institution, seat go empty, it is also a nation's loss. Are we taking this in that spirit and that way? What are the solutions? So Tarun sir.
You've raised a very pertinent point. I think we have to ask ourselves the question: why is there a dropout rate? Right. That's the first point to figure out how to plug the gap. And I think towards that, I think a lot of it is to do that in India, teachers and faculty or professors aren't regarded as their counterparts in the, in the West, right? And now even in the East. So I think we pay our teachers peanuts. And I think that's where, education as a go-to job. I've come from the corporate world, right? So what we've seen is that, all those who don't do well in industry or can't take the pressure of industry. Industry is ruthless, right? You are you miss a quarter, you could be sacked. So they say, yaar, ye humse nahi na ho paye. So they go into education. Ye safe hai, yahan pe koi zyada nahi, thoda gyan de do bachchon ko. So you get the talent pool is upside down, right? The high flyers are going to the multinationals, the KPMGs, the McKinseys and Deloittes of the world. The ones who are not able to compete or come into this world. Now, the academic institutions say, हाँ ये तो अभी इसको नौकरी चाहिए तो let's pay him peanuts. तो वो और भी मतलब, so he is, that's where I think then his motivation to do magic in the classroom is zero. And because of tenure in many institutions, the concept of getting sacked as a teacher is very rare. I mean, it's in most institutions. I won't talk about ours. But so people say ये हमारा career job है, मतलब जिंदगी भर 50 साल करते जाओ, आओ बच्चे आए नहीं आए मुझसे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, right? I've got my tankha, I've got my so I think that's where it has to be shaken at its roots, right? Firstly, we need to get the best talent to be motivated to say, wow, this is another alternative. And in the West, the CEOs of companies go to the faculty, right, for advice. यहाँ पे कोई नहीं जाता है, उसको तो बोलता ही नहीं है. I mean, it's changing. And so there are pockets of amazing professors who managed to do that in India. But generally, I'm saying as a nation. So I think we need to fix that. And I think, given they've been battling valiantly, managing their own kids during COVID times and even, managing the classroom, I think the government should give them a tax break, if nothing else, because they've really sacrificed, their own children. Imagine managing your children and managing a class of students who don't want to come to class or don't want to learn online. So it's a huge challenge. So I think we've got to fix that at the base level, increase their and give them an environment. I'll tell you, I go to a government college, one of the best. I'm not going to name it on this platform. Best in Mumbai. You cannot imagine the state of the place where the teachers sit, right? It's stinking. And it's supposed to be like everybody would try to go into that college. So what I'm trying to say is you got to create, give them great salaries, give them an environment that they feel, like a multinational. They are treated, they are respected, they are given the kind of due, give them nice offices, make them feel like, heads of what a corporate counterpart will be doing. And then, of course, to this, like your second point, the cost has to go up. You cannot say I'm going to pay, 15,000 in many colleges, 15,000 per annum is the tuition fee. You can't pay 15,000 and then expect to get a rock star to come and teach you, right? You can't have that. So parents need to, many parents say, हमको वो सस्ता सुंदर नहीं, ये education में नहीं है. आपको चाहिए तो you have to pay for your, quality. There is that. So I think that's your related point with respect to, what we need to do from a value perspective. I'm going to talk about one survey I just happened to see this week. So multinationals around the world, now we're not talking GMAT. I'm sure you know GMAT is an entrance exam. GMAT exam is an entrance exam taken by the Ivy League schools and some of the best, including the IIMs and ISB in India. They do a global survey of all the companies that hire MBAs from these top schools. And what was interesting is, this online world, which we are currently in and may have to hopefully not do too much, but it could be another year. I mean, I don't like to hear the sound of even that, but it could prolong for 6 months at least. given the vaccination rate. So they have said that 37% of the global companies don't see value in online education. MBA, I'm talking at an MBA level, So what does that tell you? That the companies are not seeing value in this. Second, if you look at the consulting firms, 52% of all the consulting firms in the world are saying there is no value in this online. That's a serious shock. And there is another 20% who are on the 50-50 on the fence. So it's around 70% of the organizations which are recruiting our students are saying ye theek nahi hai. So this also tells us that the policy makers need to, I can say this very, very emphatically. पहले मॉल खुलता है, फिर जिम खुलता है, फिर स्विमिंग पूल खुलता है, पर एजुकेशन छोड़ दो यार. वो पता नहीं किसी को, nobody wants to touch it. Now, if that's your priority level, then what are we talking about, right? Education is not even mentioned in the list. I'm looking कि education कब खुलेगा, वो तो है ही नहीं on the system. Let them do all the same precautions to open up, right? So I think that's very important. Now, if you flip the GMAT survey and you ask the students, that's even more startling. 70% of students see no value in this online world. 70%. So company, we are in the middle. Akash and I sit in the middle. We are the education. Company ko nahi chahiye, bacche ko nahi chahiye, but aap change nahi kar sakte. You sit there and you do it. So that's, I think, something which the policy makers need to, be cognizant about. I think the other thing is, we as faculty, I would say we should respect the learner. He's going through a tough time. Enable that thinking, and from a perspective, one word I would like us to change in the education system is the word pedagogy. Peda comes from the Greek word child, whereas in school education, pedagogy is perfect. In higher education, you're not dealing with children, you're dealing with adults, and therefore I would like the whole thinking to change to the word andragogy, and that is about how adults have to be educated, where you take the value the adult brings to the classroom as much as what the teacher brings, right? It's equal. It's not like one is at a pedestal. It's what we call guide by the side, not sage on stage. So those are some of the things I would like the acceleration on. Of course, NEP is great. Let's fast forward that. And as a corporate, I come from 20 years in the corporate, and we say one thing: let managers manage. Similarly, let education institutions educate. Don't put so many things in them that you're literally, this small compliance, that small compliance. I find it, the reason we are doing this, we're doing it selfless. Akash and me and his academic institution, it's a not-for-profit. So why are you making it so difficult for us to educate? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tarun sir, for again giving a complete different out of box thoughts. I will come to Akash sir without wasting time. Sir, your closing comment, your message, and the questions that I put.
Well, I start this on two lines. I mean, the first one is the model for the institution, which we follow in the corporates. I mean, it is the model of SPG, which is sustainable, profitable growth. Now, nowadays, I mean, the biggest challenge is to sustain. Forget about the profit and the growth. And on the lines of the students, I mean, this SPG applies to them as well. Somewhere down the line, they have to sustain their education. They have to sustain their journey of education. I mean, any kind of a break will be, harmful to them as well, because, that breaks the continuity. And when it comes, I'm adding some, content more to what Tarunji said. I mean, this is all about teachers. I mean, I have visited many institutions in my career, many institutions, whether schools, colleges, or whatever. I mean, I find 80% of the teachers are not meant for teaching. They are not made for teaching. Even then, you just had a word with one of the middle class teacher. I just asked him, madam, ये आपने job क्यों किया? I mean, she was saying कि sir मैं 2 बजे घर चली जाती हूँ, बच्चों को देख लेती हूँ, अपना खाना बना लेती हूँ. I mean, उसका जो when I asked that teacher, I mean, this is the primary focus. She's not focused on, what new innovative ideas she can give to the students, or, how she can, sharpen her own skills. So that is the reason the idea of faculty development program came in. But again, I they I don't know. I mean, there are a lot many institutes. They are a bit skeptical about this. I mean, they are not allowing some of the trainers, or maybe teachers are not comfortable taking those lessons or lectures. I take normally leadership training classes. My youngest of the student is a 75-year-old retired general from Indian Army. So now, if a man of 75 years old has a desire to learn, why don't a teacher or any kind of a faculty has a desire to learn? It, the traffic has to be both ways. First, you have to learn, then you have to teach. And it is a continuous process. So till the last breath of our life, we tend to learn. And that is the biggest problem which is hampering the growth of the students, which is hampering the quality, which is hampering the quality of education, which is hampering their placements, which is hampering their overall growth, and hampering the business of the institute. So I normally say, never confuse education with intelligence. You will find people with lot many degrees in their files, but you will find zero intelligence in them. So it is a duty of the institute think tanks to hire right people for the right job. Leadership is all about doing right things. So a wrong hiring can spoil everything. So this is my take on this. And when it comes to the policy, how government can intervene into that. See, in my view, government has nothing in their hands. It is the corporate world which recommends government to create policies. The whole funding for I should not say this on this platform, but all their political agendas and motives come from the political world only. But when it comes to sustaining an institute, or maybe thinking about a student or how he can get educated, we are talking about online education. Whatever we have talked about is restricted to the urban areas only. If we talk about the rural education, one of my friend is running a coaching institute, IT coaching institute in Bihar, in Patna. And trust me, there are a lot many students who, they came to Patna to study this IT J coaching. And they are from the remote interior areas of the Bihar. But now in the pandemic era, they are not able to come because the classes are not been allowed. So, and in their villages, they don't have a leverage, or they don't have a luxury to use internet connections, because in most of the cities and most of the villages, you will not find proper network there. So now 70% of our citizens, they live in the rural India. So what we are talking about? We are only focusing on the urban areas. We are only talking about the people who have the paying capacity. Now, you rightly said, most of the institutes, they struggle to fill their seats. So I have discussed this with the top leadership of my institute, and we have agreed this year to give 100% scholarship, especially to the female students. Because this way or the other, there are some of the programs where we are not able to fill our seats. So why not give this opportunity to the poor children to study? So it is a kind of a CSR activity which we are doing. And not only that, I mean, it is a kind of responsibility of each and every institute who claims to be an education institute or educationist. It is our job also to find out, I mean, where we can educate people. This is what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akash sir, for your points. You mentioned a couple of 2-3 important points also in the end. I'll not repeat, because I would request viewers to watch it again fully if you really want to get a lot of points. I will, in addition to a lot of points, I just want to say those 2-3 areas I want to reiterate, because that is what we believe we need to change or transform our education system. First point, I would say that let us increase our, education spending on GDP. Let us increase that, because that is the only way we can change our education system. We need a lot of investments. I don't know whether how we allow FDI. Even if it does, there are a lot of other complications. So what I want to say that let our spending, government spending or public spending go up in addition to our corporate spending in education, which government is doing through CSR activities. That is one. The second thing, let also government take the initiative of creating education awareness under NEP, where government should also take the honor and responsibility of filling the private institution seats. If it goes empty, it is a national loss. The third and fourth, I think the points which sir has already very well said, that branding and delivery and the positioning of the institution is very important, because there are a lot of institutions students know, but they are not the top choice of them for admissions. So how can institutions become a good brand as well as the first choice is also a very important thing. That also depends on your achievement in terms of placing your students in better corporates and also providing the best class, world class quality education. So with this, if you like our discussion, do subscribe to our channel and keep watching the Policy Times. I want to thank Tarun sir and Akash sir for spending time with us, sharing our perspectives. We together can change the nation, and we are committed for it. Thank you. Keep watching.